Bring the meeting of the UDR regulations and public hearing and select board meeting to order for June 10th. Mr. Thomas, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'm making a motion to approve the agenda for June 10th, 2024.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The approval of the minutes for May 29th, 2024?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for May 29th, 2024.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
All right. It shows that we're all present, but the approval of the agenda was 4-0. And down below, way at the bottom, is 4-0 also. On the bottom of page 2, Hey Gov, really should be capital letters, not HEY-GOV. Warrants and approval. It says I made the motion, but it also said I seconded it, which I did not. I have no idea who seconded it.
I know I did not. But other than that, I can't, somebody
I
else.
don't remember.
We have the recording, we can figure it out. From the recording.
Yeah, we'll have to figure that out.
I put a question mark next to Mark Brown's stated with regard to communication. I guess I missed it. I must have slept through that. That's all I have.
That was in reference to the easement for the building that they have down at Crystal Beach.
Oh, okay.
She might not have been here for that. That might have been the meeting she missed originally when we were talking about the
Oh,
right of way that they were
first
asking
time around,
for.
yeah. Yeah, that. Anything else on the minutes of May 29th?
I've got something on page 2 here. Pimentello reviewed his monthly report with the board. Also, a brief explanation of the speed carts going out and speed limit signage at Brown's Four Corners and the possibility of the speed limit being reduced due to fatalities at that intersection. Weren't we talking about the Four Corners here with the stoplight?
Castleton Four Corners,
Yeah.
that is correct.
Not Brown's Four Corners?
That is correct.
Okay.
So we need to change the minutes to reflect that, Mike?
Yep, correct.
That's all I had.
We haven't had a fatality at Brown's Corners in at least 10 years, maybe more.
That's,
All in favor of approving the minutes of May 29th?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Need a motion to approve the minutes of June 3rd.
I make a motion to approve the minutes for June 3rd.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of June 3rd. Any discussion?
Folks on Zoom, can you please, if your microphone, I think it's you, Mr. Richards, can you please mute your microphone so we don't get the feedback? Thank you.
He may not know how. All right, we're gonna,
The only thing that I had was under the paving thing, about halfway down in the paragraph, it says, M. Jones explained a few new techniques that have been showing good longevity in Pittsford in particular. I think we can just get rid of the on,
Yeah, in.
just in Pittsford in particular. Not
I'm
anything
sorry, I was
major,
doing that, I
but-
wasn't paying attention, so, sorry.
Have that gentleman either mute himself or have him leave the meeting, please.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
you're not muted, so I'm asking you to mute because we're getting feedback from your computer. There you go. Thank you.
Okay, now we can move on without a distraction. Sorry about that.
Halfway down through paving, Mike. The paving section of that.
I gotta find it. You're on the minutes for June 3rd, right?
Yep.
Correct.
On the back page. About halfway down, it says M. Jones explained a few new techniques that have been showing good longevity in Pittsford in particular. I think we just need to get rid of the on.
Okay.
Not that it's major, but
I have that feed.
Mary Lee, do you have anything?
No, not a thing.
Mark?
I'm good.
Mr. Spalding is not on yet. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Citizens' comments, items not on the agenda. Are there any comments? Anything on, no, nothing on Zoom? I don't see any hands. Oh, yes, Mary.
Mary McIntyre, Castleton. I'm just reporting that the Jimmy Casey dedication sign for the little girls softball field is complete. Picked it up last Tuesday and just been waiting for Mr. Alexander to come and pick it up and install it. Talked to him this morning and he said his schedule just hasn't allowed it, but he is planning to get it done for Wednesday, which is good because the very last softball game is the 13th, and it would really be nice to have it at an event. And I'd like to have a little bit of time to get somebody there to at least speak, who remembers Jimmy and the Lions, to be able to unveil the sign or at least point out that, the reason why it was replaced. So that's all I have to report.
And the Lions Club paid for that sign?
Yes.
That's
thank you,
awesome.
Mary.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
That's a really, really great thing for the community. It's wonderful that you guys took that on.
Well, that's why it's so important to get it up, and it just hasn't worked out. But we're hoping. We're communicating. I'm badgering him the best I
We
can.
probably should talk tomorrow, if you could, because I don't think he's gonna be here on Wednesday.
Well,
He had emergency stuff he come in today and saw me about, so he might not be here on Wednesday.
okay. Then do we have somebody else to put that up? Because we've owned it since last Tuesday.
I'm sure I could,
I mean,
Get the
I
highway
think it's
department
pretty
down.
important. Wouldn't you agree, Mark? I mean, you've been
I think
very
it's really
agreeable
important.
that we get it up, and so, I don't want to get angry or anything like that. I just can't encourage anybody enough that we need to get it up. I did talk to him today. He said he didn't want anyone else to put it up because he wants to enforce it with metal, because Cindy Mahoney suggested, because the principal is also excited about this, so she said maybe I could ask the custodians to put it up. But I mentioned that to John via text, and he said no, he wanted to be able to do it.
I'll follow up with him tonight.
I think if the Lions Club spent the money to have it taken care of, and if they want to get it up so they can do something in memory, then we should probably work on making sure that happens this week.
Well, and the last little girls' game for the season
Correct.
is the 13th.
Yep.
At least get it up for temporary for
Yeah.
that game.
Yeah. And then if it is not going to be up temporary, to make sure that it's going to be stored in a safe spot, because it was $470, so it's not something that should be just kicking around somewhere.
So, Mike, can you get a hold of Mr. Alexander and see what he had in mind, and if his circumstances?
He absolutely can't. I'm sure some of us could get together and go put it up so it's not going to fall down, and at
Yeah,
least
we
on
can
a
figure
temporary
something out.
basis.
We can figure something out.
Yeah, it's not rocket science. We can make that up there.
If I was in town this week, I would help you, but I won't be around, so
Well, Rob and I could get it done.
I'm sure you
And I
guys
might
have the
have a
skills.
lion or two that might be able to help out.
It would be
Okay.
nice too if you contacted Roy from the paper. I'm sure he would take a picture of that and publish it.
Yeah, and I'm in hopes of getting a hold of Butch, so at least he can see the picture, just so he knows that it's where, so if somebody mention to him, he's not being blindsided.
So if you get a hold of John, find out what he wanted and share that with Mark and Rob. Sounds like they're willing to make sure it gets done,
But-
either by themselves or by someone else.
But I'm not filing a complaint or anything like that. I'm just letting you know that we have it, and I'm working with him
And we're,
to,
we're gonna see what we can do to help you out.
yeah.
We'll get
that's-
it done.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Mary, and
Mary.
thank the Lions.
Thank the Lions for all they do, Mary, and you too. No more public comments? Seeing none, we're going to move on to public comments for the Castleton's proposed Unified Development Regulations, or UDR. So, is there someone in here who would like to go first? Mr. Gillen? So has everyone done two things, had their cell phones on mute and had signed in the, I'm going to call it the visitor's log, the attendance log?
They're in the back. There's two of them, one for the sewer and one for the select board meeting, and that table in the back.
Mr. Gillen, we have half an hour, so I'd like you to, make your
Quick.
comments
Oh,
brief,
okay.
because I'm sure there's other people that need
Yes,
to
sir.
speak as well.
You got it, okay. Two editorial comments and one substantive one. In the chart, where you talk about what's going on in each of the zoning districts, you regularly use P, but you have crossed out P so at the beginning, you don't want to use P anymore. So as you edit this, or as whoever edits it, you want to make sure not just that the Ps are crossed out, some are and some aren't, but that they're all gone and presumably replaced with an A. It's just all editorial, but you wouldn't want to publish this the way it is. That would be misleading. So it's in the chart. When they talk about districts, they have Ps all the time, and you don't want any Ps if they're going to stick with crossing them out, which is what they say at the very beginning. Secondly, is there a map in that document? I couldn't find it. Is there just a map of the districts? Here's Castleton, and here are the districts set out. Is there one?
There's not, no, I had that same question.
No, it's online, available online on the town website.
Well, I think it should be there in the document, even if there's a little note underneath, this is not an official version of the map. But people would at least like to look at the zoning, the regulations, and get a sense of what's what and where. So I think it should be there, myself. Okay, there. Then number 3 is the substantive one. And I'm just going to, if I may, hand this out to the select board. My attempt to solve a problem. I'm going to give one to my friend behind me here. Give me a minute.
Can I help you do that?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. And then,
Thank you.
give me a minute. I want to give one to you before we start. So, boom. Okay.
Thank you, Mary.
Thanks. Oh, Mary, thank you, dear, thank you. Good, good, okay. And then, just give me one more second, and I'll be ready. Okay. On page 37 of the document, there is the sentence in normal print. All zoning URD requirements for the district shall be met, except that the following may be modified or waived: density of dwellings, building height, lot area, lot width or depth, lot coverage, and setbacks. If you just look at this, it's just so broad that the Development Review Committee could basically do whatever it wanted to. It could say we're going to have a 4-story building, a 5-story building, a 6-story building. I don't think anybody wants that, but that's one reading of the language. So then I said, well, why don't we just put it under the auspices of Article 9? Because it's there. It talks about variances and waivers. So we'll just say, and this is my addition in bold, such modifications or waivers shall be done in accordance with Article 9, variances and waivers. So it limits it. Some people would like to just get rid of that sentence, the initial one, the one in plain print altogether. Some people want it exactly as it is, but I think a good sensible compromise is to say the DRB needs some running room, but it doesn't need all the running room in the world, and so it'll follow the provisions of variances and waivers. And that's just sort of like my recommendation. I think it would solve lots of problems, because you don't want to get into dealing with spot zoning. You don't want to have everything depend on who exactly is on the DRB. You'd want some rules of the road, some guidance, and I think that sentence provides the guidance. And that's what I wanted to say, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'll be talking to the planning commission chairman, and we'll take this under advisement,
Thank you.
okay?
Thank you very much. Good.
Okay, who's next?
Katie Culpo from Castleton. I had a couple, forgive me, I'm following some comments from others that I'm sharing. To build on what John just said, same thing, so page 43. Page 43, section 713. Had to do with the height waiver. So just as John was kind of connecting to, it's at page 51 that John referred to that talks more about waivers, but it gives more guidance as to drive the DRB on what they're using as criteria to make some of these decisions. So it's the same thing. This section 713 was added in height of structures. So the language, no structure shall exceed a height applicable to the district except when waived. And that may refer to section 902, where it specifically talks about waivers, because that section gives more detail that would drive the DRB in kind of weighing and making that decision. So that was one. And then in section 902, page 51, so so page 51, section 902, waivers. So dimensional requirements, but we are making the assumption that this also includes height changes. It was just more clearly linking. So we have a separate height section, but that height section gives no direction to the DRB as far as what criteria they would use. This section does, so that's why we were saying to kind of refer to that.
Except for I don't believe that section, I've read this whole thing several times, but I don't have it memorized. I don't believe section 902 deals with height at all, does it?
Well, that was our other question. So is it everything else but not including height because it's mentioned in a different area? But if these criteria in 902 don't apply to height, then we would believe that the height section 713, needs to have some criteria in it that would direct the DRB's decision as to, so what would be the DRB's criteria? So again, like John was saying, if somebody comes in and they want a 6-foot building or a 6-story or 7-story building, and that's their request, well, what kind of criteria is driving the DRB's decision, right? We have set criteria in section 902 that would kind of guide the DRB's decision, right? Like look at the town plan or other structures in the area in that zoning section. It's not going to be, it's specifically intended to improve access, no side setbacks. It doesn't, it has really clear set criteria. So we're just saying in that height section, either refer the DRB to section 902 for guidance on approval, or include in section 713 guidance to the DRB of how they would make exceptions to height if an appeal came to them. That would be our recommendation. Any questions on that? Is that kind of clear? Again, I'm kind of going by some chicken
Well, I
scratch
think your
notes here.
suggestion is that we include height criteria in section 902. Is that what your suggestion is?
Well,
And
either
or in 713.
correct.
In 713, I believe. 902 doesn't have anything with height in it, so
Correct.
I think something should probably be added to
713
713.
does not either, but
So that would be the question. So just 713 defer to the criteria set forth in section 902 of when a dimensional waiver would be approved, or would there be standalone height considerations that the DRB would take in?
we're going to have to
Yeah.
get into this.
Yep, yep.
I don't
nope,
have an answer
that's-
right now, obviously.
No, absolutely, understand that. And same thing with, I had the same question as far as I didn't see, I saw the table of uses, but I didn't see a new zoning map, and you say that it's online. When was that online map last updated?
Wasn't.
It wasn't.
It was not changed.
Okay, so it's like 2009,
Yes.
2007, or 2009? Okay.
It was not changed.
Okay, okay. So that was another question. So that, another member of our group was very concerned. So, in regards to rooming houses and fraternities and sororities, should these two, they're clearly different uses. So should they be listed as two clearly different uses in the table of uses? They serve two different populations, sororities and fraternities, college students. Rooming houses can be for anyone. As proposed right now, this use can be located in the RR2A zoning district, which is 70 to 80% of the town. So consequently, you could have fraternity or sororities miles away from the college. Right up next to Lake Bombazine. Fraternities and sororities, do they need to be near water? Would that be safe? Alcohol and drinking. So the suggestion was maybe the table, since we have this new very broad table of uses and rooming houses, it might be worthwhile strategizing these zoning districts and what we really want happening in different areas of our town based on all of these new uses in the table. Does the map reflect current uses, considerations for the town now as we want it in 2024? And then, that was just another consideration as far as moving forward.
I'm taking notes, Katie.
Yeah, this is kind of important stuff. And then based on when we came last couple weeks ago, we were concerned about the date of this June 28th and the documents submitted to the environmental court, and in February 2023 was the environmental court was given the February 2021 zoning. And our lawyer contacted the town office and was told that the February 2021 zoning was the legal document. So our group still questions this document having on it this select board June 28th, 2021. So our comments were just requesting the select board possibly request from the town manager proper meeting warnings and meeting minutes to, in fact, prove that this is the legal zoning document for the town. And if it is, then we're just not understanding why the February 2021 document was submitted to the environmental court in February of 2023. That was our last thing to request from the select board on this official document.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Public comments first, Mary Lee.
Okay.
There's no other public comments. Then I will move on to Select Board. Mary Lee,
Pages are numbered wrong.
splendid.
If you look at such and such, it says, page 31, and it's really on page 32. They're at least one number off.
Mr. Thomas,
The, the whole problem with the numbering system is that after the select board passes whatever it passes, we have to take out the editorial comments, which is gonna change all the numbers anyway. So that table of contents has been a moving target and has been problematic. The fact that you're only off a page is good compared to what we've had to deal with earlier. So the numbering system will be taken care of when the final edit comes out. Because when you approve it, all that deletions come out and all the editorial comments come out, and then it gets renumbered and table of contents.
Thank you.
yeah, I thought that was a general housekeeping type issue. That,
The problem was made even more cumbersome for the planning commission by the fact that the regional planning commission totally reorganized. So you'll see where section 1400 is now section 7 and vice versa.
So you promise it'll be better.
Allison promises it will be better.
well, I know she's capable, so. Anything else from the board?
I just had an absent drop my
Just wait a minute, Mr. Gillen, I'll get to you. What time, are we doing good?
You got time.
19.
So do you,
It's 19:02 right now.
you need a turn, Mike? Town manager's good? The rest of the board is good? Mr. Gillen, can you approach the podium, please, so that the microphone can hear you?
I can't remember where that's the problem, my friend, but someplace in the document, it is mentioned that the map is appended to the document, and I thought therefore it would be at the very end. Now, you're gonna ask me, where does it say the map is appended? And I don't remember, but it definitely says it. So that's one reason to include it, because the document says it will be included. That's my 2 cents for now.
Understood.
I think you're correct. I think it does say that. We didn't include it because it hasn't been changed in the copies, your copies that are all handed out.
The plan is to update the map as and when needed?
Good question.
The purpose of the map is to outline the districts,
Right?
and we did not change any districts, so that the map
It's not changed.
was not changed at all. And that, it was omitted by error. It should have been with this document. We agree.
So we can fix that.
We can fix that. It's fixed online.
It would be nearly impossible to read on a page this size.
I realize that.
That's the other
That's a
part.
good point. As a practical
But-
matter, it wouldn't be that helpful.
Yeah, even on a computer screen, you can't look at it in its entirety. You have to go to small sections.
It could be done in several pages, though, couldn't it?
That's also got cumbersome on a different level as well.
To Mr. Gillen's point, it does on page 9, say a copy is appended. So I guess that should be removed if it's not.
No, we should have penned it.
Even if it's not very usable, but it is
You
there.
could put a reference at the bottom of it where you could see.
Put the
Where
link
an
to-
electronic version is available. And there's probably a large version available at the town office to look at.
There is, but I think I'd recommend that you make reference to the town website, so that, and even put a link in there so they can get to it.
There must be a copy of size C paper or D paper, whatever it is, at the town office, the big.
Big.
I saw one more hand up. Can you approach the podium and state your name, please?
Hi, Wayne Pickett, Sand Hill Road. I just have a question about the logistics. Will there be a clean final draft available for review before it's approved and finalized? Because this is really difficult to read and follow when you're trying to find stuff and search on it, especially if you're doing it by paper. If you're doing it on the computer, it's a little easier because you can try to search. But for the public to have a final last look at the final draft, so we see exactly what the final look is before it's published and finalized, is that possible?
I'm really unsure what the legalities are here, so perhaps either,
This is an official town document. It should be, you're asking us to review it,
yes.
and you're giving us a document that you guys have a hard time finding stuff in, because it's scratches, incorrect stuff is on there still right now, the Ps and As and different districts, and on the height section for that college, it says we don't know how to determine what the size of 4 stories is in the comments that you can see on the computer, but you can't see it if you print it out. And also, if there's gonna be is there gonna be an electronic version that's final when it's finalized online, where if you attach the map to, we could actually view it because you can expand it on the computer?
My understanding is in every case of a document like this, we have an electronic version
Okay, so a
available
map
once
would be
it's
fine
final.
to have on an electronic version.
What
But yeah,
what I can't speak to right now is the exact chronology of what we have to do once we've reviewed this, once we've had public comment and we review it, what exactly the process is before we can adopt it for final version. I will find out and get you an
I'd
answer.
appreciate it. I would think that you'd want someone to have a chance to look at it to catch any other possible errors or confusion before it's finalized, and then you're trying to fix it after the fact.
The advantage to this format, though, is that you can see what has been changed.
Right, I agree, that's great, you know, the red stuff and the black crosses. But when you want to read what was the final decision made to accept? What are you guys approving? That's just a request. I don't know why it wouldn't be legal, but it'd be one more step and it's all it would be. From the planning commission, they said they've been working on this for 3 years. I don't think,
Well,
take
by all
that much
means, I want
longer.
to do this right, so.
that's what I was hoping. So
I'll-
that's my suggestion.
Sorry, if you think this is cumbersome, we had another version that not only shows all the red line, but in the column on the side shows when it was made and by who over how many years. And it was just so busy, we just.
I saw some of your
confusing.
versions in some of the meetings that you had at the planning commission, so I know you've made steps,
Yeah.
and you said how much you're working on it. I think that you'd want the final version to be
But we do.
perfect, you know, as perfect as possible.
Yeah.
So, that's my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more public or board comments?
I would like to say to the folks that worked on this document, it's obvious you put a lot of time into it, and I read it 3 times. I think you probably read it 200. And I spent a fair amount of time with the Rutland Regional Planning Commission going over it, and they think it's wire-tight. You guys think it's wire-tight. I think the 2 things that Mr. Gillen and Mrs. Colpo mentioned should be at least looked at. But other than that, I'd really like to commend you on what a nice job it was.
I did have a few things, Dick. I don't know if we're gonna be able to talk about them at a different time, or if this is it for us, or.
Well, now would be a good time to start the process, so.
Okay, so under uses, when
What
it gets to
page?
page 13, under the chart for uses, on the hotel line, there's nothing. It's all blank. Or page 14, sorry. About 3/4 of the way down, it's in red, it says hotel, and then there's nothing after it for any of the zones.
I think hotel was added to that table because it's referred to elsewhere in the document. But at the present time, there is, under current zoning, there is no place to put the hotel either. So it's there, but it's, we weren't looking to put a hotel into town.
Okay. So we have no land available in town for hotels, zoning wise, is that what you're saying?
Where would you put one?
Well, I'm just curious, there's no zoning, there's no place in town that's zoned for a hotel
Correct.
currently? Okay.
We could make this clearer.
And what else did I have? I had kind of the same things that they had as far as like the height of structures, leaves it way too open. On page 45, on section 702, or 720, sorry, number C, docks. It says, no zoning permit is required, nor are setbacks applicable for the following. There might not be any zoning for docks, but it would be nice if you put something in there that says see state regulations. Because, just because the town of Castleton doesn't have any zoning, people think they might be able to put docks in, but there are state regulations regarding putting docks in. So if somebody was just reading the local ordinance, they wouldn't think that was anything and they would do whatever they wanted. Just a heads up for the citizens might be a nice help. And utilities, page 65. The DRB may require the extension of public sewers to and within proposed subdivision without cost to the municipality where existing lines are, in the judgment of the DRB, within a reasonable distance of the proposed subdivision. I don't like anything with that word reasonable in there, because what's reasonable for one might certainly not be reasonable for another. I think if you're gonna have something like that in there, you should probably have an actual distance. Because what you could end up with is you could end up with one board that thinks it's reasonable for 100 feet and another board that thinks it's reasonable for 200 feet. So when you start using words like reasonable, it gets into a really shady area. And it looks like all I've got, Dick.
Okay.
I mean, to your previous comment, there is, I can't cite exactly where it is, language that state laws will always supersede.
Yeah.
We refrain from including that language in a lot of different
I just think it would be beneficial for anybody that was reading the zoning laws before they get in trouble with the state for putting a dock in over 500 square foot, for example, which requires a lake encroachment permit, to at least have a heads up from the town that it is, it would be wise to, check your state laws before proceeding or something like that.
I'm gonna have to chew on that one for a while. I can see both points of view there.
I agree with Rob on that. I got into Act 250 trouble. I had received local zoning permits to build a structure, not realizing that I was running afoul of Act 250 for several years, and it ended up being very costly in the end. So that certainly was on me, but it would have been a nice community service if when I got the building permit, they mentioned that I would also need Act 250.
Or at least a heads up to look into, do you need anything else from the state prior to moving
Right,
forward?
there may be state regulations that apply as well. Most citizens are not going to be aware of that. Not to say they necessarily would, but you may need, there could be state regulations that apply to your project.
Yeah, I can think of towns where people do additions or improvements where there's no zoning, and then they wind up in the state water use regulations. And fortunately, the last one I got into, I was smart enough to check into that first. But not everyone would be. So that's a double-edged sword. We'll have to talk about that, because if we include language to that effect in some places, but not others, then does that make us liable? You know, in the places where we omit that language, or responsible in some way? So we'll have to think about that one. Mary Lee, go ahead.
One other question. It seems to me in the back of my little brain that the state supersedes unless the town is stronger than what the state. Am I correct?
In most cases, that's correct. If
That's
we
correct.
regulate something, it has to be
Has more
at least
teeth.
as much teeth as the state or more. Or if it doesn't have as much teeth as the state, there's no point in doing it.
Right. But like he said, the state supersedes it. Doesn't always supersede.
The more restrictive
Yeah,
regulation supersedes.
we can be more restrictive than the state, but we can't be less.
Right.
So I'll get a hold of you guys if I have self-service tomorrow. If not, I'll figure out a way and we'll start talking about what we need to do to wrap this up.
We are meeting tomorrow night, so,
Unfortunately, I will not be available.
no, but we can discuss this internally.
Yeah, please do. And then I'll be back in town Friday afternoon. Maybe we can touch base then or early next week and figure out what our next steps are. Because to presenting a final clean document to the public, whether we have another meeting or not, at least we can present it and get feedback in some way. Anything else on the UDR? If not, we're going to move on to the recreation update. And I do not see a rector. So, Mr. Town Manager, has everyone received Mr. Alexander's report and had a chance to look it over?
Yes.
Is Joe supposed to be J-O or J-O-E?
Joe Carmel is J.O.
Is it? Okay.
Short for Jocelyn.
Oh, is it? Okay. I do know he has French-Canadian ancestry.
Okay,
I bet he doesn't
I
pronounce it
just looked
Jocelyn
at it
either.
and thought, that looks like a girl's name, not a boy's name. Or a woman, not a man.
Not in the culture he was born in.
I don't know if you can answer this, Dick, on the softball field up at the elementary school. Does the elementary school use that softball field also? Or is that only our youth teams through the town?
I believe the school uses that softball field as well, do they not?
Are they sharing in any of the costs of the dressing and unplanned expenses to fix the field up with us?
Not that I'm aware of, but I know that John reached out to Mark Cassidy, so I'm not sure if they provided anything or not. I'll make a note to follow up on it.
And I mean, do we have any sort of paperwork that gives us rights to that field for an extended period of time?
We asked that question, God, it had to be a month ago at least, and I had Karen call up and talk to the principal and to Chris Cole, and they don't have any document. They just said it's all good.
Mark, you could probably give us some background on this, can't you?
Unfortunately, it wasn't written down. It was a verbal agreement made in 1994. That was all part of the playground for the school. The school didn't have a organized team per se, and the rec commission asked for permission to use that as a girls' field and received permission. And that's when the Casey family donated money for the backstop and some other improvements. Atticus donated the stone for the infield, but it was, in hindsight, I should have done a better job with it. It was just a verbal agreement that we had, and I don't think that there was ever any expectation that the school would participate in any of the costs maintaining it as a field, because for them it had just been a playground. They were conceding to us to allow us to put a field there. And of course, that was in the time when we had better community involvement. The Hattakas donated all the stone, people went up there and
we owned the school at the time, right, anyway,
we owned the school at the time,
so.
and we just went up and built the field.
I mean, I don't wanna see putting a whole bunch of money in there all of a sudden for, something to change within the school district and them say that we can't use it anymore. I mean, it's not unheard of for them to change policy in the school district across the board. Maybe it's not an issue here, but if they have issues in other towns, it's gonna have to be district-wide, so.
And I don't know the truth to this or not, but it was I'd been told, because I asked why the track team was out using the Castleton Village School last winter. And because they gave up that school. They didn't need that school. So why are they out there practicing? Why is the girls' softball out there practicing? And I was told, well, it's to offset us using some of the school fields. I thought it was soccer, but maybe it's also the softball field. I don't agree with it, but and I don't know, again, if anything was written down on that. Or if that was just something between a couple rec directors, I have no idea.
I did have a conversation with Brooke. They wanted to use the school, and I actually had a email conversation with Kim Alexander, and I told him that they couldn't use it.
Could or could not?
They could not. At the time, because they couldn't come up with a schedule and stuff like that, and so they didn't use it, and then all of a sudden it was some bartering between rec directors on use of it for other activities. So it was never written down, it was never sanctioned, it was just an agreement between two rec directors in the school.
I think that needs to get a little bit more solid on that, because if the school district is using that facility, then they need to pay. That's not a freebie. Anybody else that goes in there has to pay. So
So I made a note on
that's
it.
something that needs to be looked at.
Thank you, Mike, because I was positive I'd heard that, but thank you for backing that, because I can't tell, I don't know who the agreement was, but that was my concern too, is, we're working really hard to keep that, and all of a sudden, coaches who don't live in this town or whatever, are being able to dictate what goes on in there. They were. So that was a concern of mine.
Yeah, and our tax money's paying to maintain it and clean it and all that. We've got other people that are using it at no cost, so.
Well, do we?
Do what?
Do we have people using it at no cost?
There was some practicing going on there at one point. I'm not sure the last time it was used, but there was some practicing going on. And then there was the college, the university used it for practice too. Or basketball camp. They wanted to use that for basketball camp, but we had an agreement with them. We didn't have an agreement with the school, with the high school.
My 2 cents would be, in this time period when we're trying to develop this as a rec center, and we don't have full buy-in in the community just yet, I would like to see as many people as possible use it. And in a large part, they're the same kids. They're kids that belong to the community of Castleton. Maybe there's some Fairhaven kids. It would be great if the rec departments between Fairhaven and Castleton could work together a little bit more than we do or have. I'm sure that they have resources we don't, and vice versa. And if we can stimulate use of that building, maybe in 2025, we can work on establishing programming and values, how that would sugar off. But for right now, I'd like to see as many people as many groups as possible use that building.
I tend to agree with you, Mark. Mike?
We've also leveraged help from the high school on several different things, but they've sent people out here to help us with IT stuff that we had problems with. If we would have hired someone at $130 an hour, it would have cost us some good money to do that. So they have it, we have John as the rec director. I don't know, I don't think Bo is that deeply entrenched with it because John used to work at the school. He has points of contact, and they want to give us some fitness equipment so we can make a fitness room down there. So there are some reciprocation going back and forth.
Okay, we just need to make sure it balances out.
And the same with the college. You know, I'm not sure how it is today. When I coached junior high baseball, they let us use that phenomenal, probably the nicest baseball field in the state of Vermont is at Castleton University. And they let us use that for all our games. We told them we'd maintain it. They go, don't you touch it. We'll do it all. And it was perfect. It looked like the major leagues. They've been good about letting it.
All our home games for 7th and 8th grade teams were played at Castleton University.
Kids are blown away when they come to that field. They never thought they'd play anything like that. It's beautiful. The same with the college pool. They have in the past, you know, my kids are grown now, but in the past, they were really, really good about allowing class trips to the pool to swim. And maybe in the future, we can work out some deal like that where they can use the gym at the rec center and some of our kids in town could use the pool for free. That would be my hope. In a perfect world, you know, people can just work things out for the benefit of all.
Well, I do agree with you, Mark, that the more that building is used in a controlled manner, but I still think that our rec director and our town government needs to be right square in the middle of that. Shouldn't be just, here's the keys, have fun.
Right, and we have to make money. It's gonna cost a lot of money to keep that building up, and it doesn't have to be profitable. It has to come close to paying for itself. And if we can identify more and more groups that use it and then come up with a fee schedule of what works.
Yeah, that's the bottom line is if everyone does a little, no one has to do a lot.
Yeah.
Mary, anything more, or are you all set?
What you said, Dick, was absolutely, we have to have somebody who is there representing our best interests.
Yes.
That's the problem that was
Right.
happening. Our coaches went in, and there's chalk fights going on with throwing chalk.
Yeah,
And,
that's not
You know,
acceptable.
and then you've got rec coaches talking to high school coaches saying, who's gonna clean this up? Well, do you have a broom? You know, whereas if we'd had a rec representative there being able to say, so that will be key when we start sharing. I
Yeah,
think that's key, that somebody's in there representing us
And
our interest in that.
and any entity that uses that building has to know what the expectations are. And there has to be very clear parameters set.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces there that hopefully we can coordinate.
Well, I think that our rec director and our town manager, with help from whoever they ask help from, can accomplish that. Anything else on rec?
And they did work it out that night, but I guess it was a little tense at the time. But since you brought that up, that's why I say that. We need to have somebody on.
Well, I think that we need to be right square in the middle of that. But also, I agree with Mark that the more people that use it, the more costs are going to be offset and the more exposure it has.
More excitement we can generate.
Mike?
I want to also make everyone aware that John is one dude, and he is working way over 40 hours most weeks to try to keep up with going to games and the fields, and he can't be in that building all the time, and so we're running into issues with key holders. He did solve it for this week coming up with pickleball, because he's gonna be, or the week after, he's gonna be gone. And he told me, he briefed me today on what was going on, but, so we have to vet people to make sure they get background checks and, you know, our normal process. But having key holders to some of these programs that are happening in the evenings and or adding more programming is, you know, that's something we're trying to wrap our head around, I guess, because, one person can't do it, and we didn't budget in this current budget to pay stipends for like key holders. So, you know, if we had like a group, like say pickleball, I'm just gonna use it for an example, that it goes on for X amount of weeks, and we have keys, we can issue a key to a designated key holder, we can actually hopefully pay a stipend for them to do it because volunteers are getting harder and harder to find. And then put the burden on them to make sure the building's locked and all the doors are shut and I mean, it's not just open the door and go in and then leave. And then leave a door open or a window open and we come in and there's vandalism or whatever else happens. So we're trying to work through these little nuances that we didn't, as we get more and more use down there and have one person, a staff of one. So something we're working through. Oh, and there's a resolution. John's got stuff on here that I put out an email blast to everybody this morning that the select board approved resolution 23.01 to encumber money over into this fiscal year we're in now. That dries up on June 30th. And there's a bunch of stuff for rec in there that hasn't been done. So I pinged John and Joe and Penny and said, listen, we covered this money for a reason, and now we got to get the work done. We got a little bit of time left, but because it dries up at 30 June, it has to be invoiced, work done by 30 June. So I've explained it to them. I've given them what was in a copy of the resolution to address what was in there, but I think it's criminal if we don't use that money and then try to pass it into a future budget after voters have already paid that money.
Is it things that we could get a group of volunteers for, or that friends can help with? I mean, it's kind of short notice at this point, but.
Most of it was dugouts.
When I say friends of Castleton Parks and Rec, I don't mean friends in general, but.
Most of it's infrastructure, like the dugouts. There was some stuff at Crystal Beach, the roof at the down there on the bathrooms at the village school or at the Dewey Field. So there are some things that need to be done. Most of it's been discussed, but talk is not going to get us across the finish line. We've got to start acting on it. So I'll let John digest that and see how he wants to deal with it. But I just sent it out this morning. So
He's had a big learning curve this year.
Mm-hmm. And he's doing, Bo didn't have the field maintenance and that stuff wasn't even on Bo's radar. So there's a lot more happening under the current rec director responsibilities than there was previously.
Anything else on rec? John, if you could, or John, Mike, if you could copy me on that list of encumbrances that we may need to take action on, I'd appreciate it. Okay, we're gonna move on. If we're set with rec, we're gonna move on to dog reports, or unlicensed dog report. Nedra is not here.
Nope, I gave her the night off, Dick. She's at the Boston Crusaders concert.
Good for her. Do you wanna say anything before I ask a couple of questions?
I don't. I talked to Nedra today about it, and it is, now, what's not on here, and this is where it's a rub for some that look at this list, is this list is only for people that have previously registered a dog in the town of Castleton. There are many people that have dogs that have never registered them, and they're not being penalized. They're not on this list. So this list only is for those that have previously registered a dog, and what Nedra has been trying to do is figure out, like, okay, maybe they moved. Maybe the dog is no longer with us, that kind of stuff. So it's just tedious to work through the list. But this list is just for those that have previously registered a dog and has not since then.
Okay, so my first comment is that it's not the dog's fault if the owner doesn't register them. So I don't think the dog should be penalized. However, what are the consequences for the dog's owner?
Civil violation.
And our mechanism is to have the animal control officer go to each dog's residence to see if their owner has re-registered the dog?
Or contact them if we can get phone numbers.
Yes.
And we've been pretty unsuccessful going that route. It starts and then it kind of wanes because he's billing us for the time he's doing this, and then he runs out of money because his budget's like minute. So it's like one of those things every year we're not budgeting properly for it.
So there's no good way to solve this problem. Plus, any new dogs that move into town, we have no idea if they even exist.
No, there's, according to Ned, there's probably more dogs in town that are not registered than there are registered.
I mean, aside from going door to door and knocking on people's doors, there's not really anything we can do. And it's probably gonna cost us more than the $684 to have somebody try to chase down all these people to scare them to register their dogs, so
That's probably why, Rob, it's been,
it's just a wash.
it becomes white noise at some point. We try our best to get people to comply, and
That's all you can do, unless there's an incident, and then you have, their dog's not on record, so then you can do a civil penalty.
That's a tough deal, that it's a public safety thing. I mean, the whole criteria is that your dog has to have a rabies shot.
That's the main goal behind all of this.
So do we have dogs in the community that are potentially a rabies threat? I mean, I guess the answer would have to be yes.
The answer is we don't know.
We don't know.
So you have to assume that there's at least one yes out there somewhere.
Right, so how big a threat is that? If an unlicensed dog were to bite a child and they contracted rabies, are we liable in some way? Civilly, morally?
Probably.
I dealt with this issue with the health officer over recent dog bites, and the dog was not registered. The dog is now registered, and there's some new people to town. And so I asked a question about liability. Should somebody have an animal that's not registered? And basically, the answer was you can't enforce what you don't know. So if they have a dog that's not registered and we don't know about it, we're not liable because we can't enforce what we don't know. But if we're not attempting to try to get these folks that we know have a dog to comply, we'd be negligent there. But if they don't do it, all we can do is go through the civil process to issue criminal complaints against them, or civil complaints.
I would think probably there's some here that have several dogs. If you're gonna go after anyone, those are the ones you should go say, you got 5 dogs and they're not registered, or you haven't. Because there's some names here that are several times.
In every case, our town clerk has sent out a notice to that person that they need to re-register their animal, correct?
And the list goes out, and we've had the animal control officer call them before. I mean, there is probably repercussions, if they don't register, we know it, and they, giving them the civil ticket. Beyond that, if they don't comply over time, I'd have to do a little more research, talk to Pete about it and make sure they know what those steps are, but. I mean, I guess it's like some of these violations, it's every day, right? Every day, if you don't pay, or if you don't comply, then we can fine you the next day. I mean, so you could compile a lot of fines, but is that the intent? We want to enforce it, but, you put all of a sudden $1,000 worth of tickets on someone, and now they can't afford to pay for the dog anyway.
If you give them, enough time to take care of their problem, I think you give them enough warnings. If they don't listen, then it's time to start doing something.
No, we certainly can issue the civil violations. And it may not be from the animal control officer, might be the problem.
It becomes a logistical issue. Who's got the time and resource to do this?
And putting on the Pete, we talked to the first constable before, and he basically said, I'm not doing those, so.
How much does it cost to register a dog?
For spayed and neuter, it's like $16 or something like that.
Would it be cheaper for us in the long run if it was free and people complied? I mean, how much labor are we spending chasing that $16?
Are they not complying though because of the $16, or are they just not complying because they're too lazy to come in and do it?
Right, it could be either one.
And you do want to try to keep some control over the rabies.
That's my concern. I wonder if there are not, in the current economy, are there more dogs that are in the community that aren't getting any veterinary care at all that don't have rabies shots. But I suppose these would be the same folks that wouldn't come register the dog even if it was free.
Yeah, to bring your dog to the vet to get the shots and any distemper and rabies and stuff, it's more than $16. So if they're not paying the $16, probably their dogs aren't going to the vet either, or at least some of them. I retract that statement. I don't know what
There's no excuse for not getting a rabies. If you go to the vet, you're going to play an arm and a leg. But if you go up to the town shed when they have it or whatever, it's little or nothing.
Yeah, we have the town do our 3 dogs all the time.
Yeah.
If you go to one of the clinics, they do it for $15 for a week.
That's significantly less than taking them to the vet to have it done.
So I guess that's something we gotta think about, what we wanna do with that.
And look at the ordinance to make sure that whatever is in the ordinance, we can enforce it too.
Let's at least do that.
I mean, it's nice, I didn't realize that there was phone numbers on here until I was just looking, so. I mean, you could make a phone call and say, hey, your dog's not registered.
Well, I noticed one guy's got 5 dogs.
Yeah, so that eliminates 5 of them with one phone call. Versus sending an email out where they ignore. Generally, if you talk to somebody on the phone, you might get a little bit further.
Would the town clerk, or could we create temporary staff to make these phone calls?
Yeah, we could do that.
Let's do that. Let's make a phone call to each phone number. And remind them that we sent them a notice in the mail, and they have still, not registered their dog, so is their dog still, in this case, is Dozer still alive? And if so, would you, please come in and re-register Dozer? And then see if they comply. We may get some compliance from that. Or Ozzy. We don't know if Ozzy's still around either. I mean, there's 108 dogs here. Let's do that first, and then we'll see what kind of yield we get from that, and then we'll move on. All right, anything else from the board? Liquor licenses for approval.
You want me to do it, Dick?
Yes.
I would make a motion to approve the liquor license for CO Grocers Group LLC, doing business as Green Mountain Market, number 104. That's a second-class liquor license and tobacco license.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Parsons Hill Sidewalk Project. This is the one that we need to decide what we're doing here. Mike, you have a quote from Wilk.
I do. I reviewed it today with the MPM from Fuss and O'Neill, and we reviewed it against the materials, the list that was provided us. I think the board, a couple meetings ago, when the board saw the 2 vendors or the 2 contractors. So we compared it, and the quote I received was for 5 foot wide, but only 2 inches in depth of asphalt, which is no-go. So doubling it to 4 inches, recommended 3 to 4. That price was approximately $44,000. And the price of concrete was like 61. But I took a side-by-side comparison, and what the answer I received about all the other things that are on that list, like the signs and the curbing and all that stuff, because it's in V-Trans right-of-way, even if we did this project ourselves and didn't go through the grant process, we still have to comply with V-Trans requirements because they approved the design, the drawings. So that all said, when I did that side-by-side comparison, to go with asphalt, it would be only $12,000 to $15,000, because it was only 1,100 feet and it's 1,200, so he only quoted me for 1,100, not 1,200. So it'd be around $12,000 to $15,000 cheaper to go with pavement. And I think that's not a big enough savings to go with something that's not gonna last as long as concrete. So the dilemma being, as I presented last meeting, was we're still $68,000 short to pay for that project. So where's the money come from? That's
The grant was 92, right?
yeah, it was double that. That was 50% of it. 92 was 50%
Yeah,
of
the
it.
grant, they would reimburse us 92K.
Correct. Plus, we paid the MPM services and everything was about 20 grand. So we have like over 30,000 invested in it, just in the design and MPM services. And then you throw the 92 plus the other remaining, I think it was 68,000 is what I found for the low bid, which above 68,000 above and beyond the grant and what we already paid.
So we're short 68,000.
Yes. So if you do nothing, we're going to lose the 30-something thousand that, well, we have the plans. I guess we didn't lose that part of it, but we're basically throwing that money away.
How much?
We have not obligated any ARPA funds at this point, we have not obligated any ARPA money for any sidewalk project.
Yeah, you did. The two small scale bike and ped grants you did.
That's right. Okay, I went and got the wrong
You
one. I
actually
got-
obligated $92,000 for that Parson Hills project out of ARPA.
So that's where the match was gonna come from.
Right. That's, our share would come out of ARPA. The other stuff, the engineering and design and stuff came out of our budget, and now we're still 68 grand short to make that project whole. And I've noticed that, so have you, I imagine, that the prices of everything just keep going up, and like that large scale one in the village, that 1.2 million, by the time we actually build that and materials are being used, I don't even know what that's gonna be. So it's on your plate, I guess, to decide how you wanna go about this. Do you wanna walk away from it, or do you wanna figure a way to pay for it?
The large scale, there's no chance that's gonna be shovel-ready this year.
Oh, hell no. I didn't have the contract from them yet. The state hasn't released the money. They gave us the award, but then they haven't released the funding.
So that's the holdup, that we haven't got the money from the state.
No, that's the large scale one. We're talking about Parsons Hills.
No, the large scale, that's the holdup.
Yes.
So we won't be able to use ARPA funds on that anyway.
So why don't we get this one done?
I make a motion that we take $68,000 out of ARPA and pay for that.
Will that do it?
You're
Math-wise,
stuttering.
by simple math right now, yes, but I'd rather come back to you with the actual amount. Because I don't have it in front of me. So it's gonna be whatever that project was minus our share and, putting the ARPA in there, or taking the ARPA out that you already gave us, subtracting it off that, and then the grant amount, that matching, that 92,400, and then and get an actual, I rounded it to 68, it might not be.
If we have all the numbers and everything prepared to make a decision on the 24th, then we award a contract on the 24th, can we have it done this year?
Technically, yes, but I want to make sure I ask the contractor now, because we've waited, it'll be a month since the time that they are here, so it had to be done by October. That was in our bid contract.
So if we can't get it done, we shouldn't award it then.
Well, that's where I'm going with it.
Yeah.
Let's do two things, Mike. Thing one is, let's go through and make sure we know what all the numbers are. And I would use worst-case numbers. And then if we wind up a few $1,000s short, we do have money in the sidewalk reserve where we could make up a small shortfall.
Now, even if they can't get the work done this year, we can still allocate the ARPA money
Yes.
it has to be allocated this year, project finished next year, is that correct?
Project finished by the end of '26.
26.
Okay.
We'd probably have to rebid it because the prices of everything will change. That's all.
Well, hopefully we could get it done this year. Seems, I mean, we're $32,000 into it. I think it's a really good project. It connects the people at Parsons Hill to the pharmacy, Four Corners,
And the medical center.
and the medical center. I think it fits in with what I think has been a goal to extend sidewalks from the Lake Road to the village. You know, it's
Ultimately, I'd like to see sidewalks from the lake,
from the lake to the village.
from the lake to the park and ride, through the village.
This is another piece of it,
Yeah.
so
I'd,
nice to
I'd,
see some measurable results this year.
I'd like to see it mainly because the older gentleman that's walking with his walking stick, all weather, everything else, it would be nice to see him on the sidewalk and not on the road.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
I mean, I know that's only one person that I see, but
So what do
There's
we,
probably more that are unable to walk on that path that would use it. Maybe people that are using, you know, a walker or a scooter chair or something. I've got to believe that there's more people that would improve their lives in a meaningful way.
Don't come down and spend some time and watch.
Pardon me?
Said come down sometime and spend some time and watch.
And what would I see?
Probably might not see nothing.
Huh?
You might not see nothing. You
So,
might see a few. It's a lot of money to spend for a few. I live there. I watch them every day. And the gentleman she's talking about, I watched him. I know Martin Ellis very well. But he will also walk in the road when there's sidewalk. Just saying. Seen
I
it.
don't know the man.
I do.
well, let's, you know what we're asking you to do, right, Mike?
Ma'am?
So
We
let's
got-
get all our numbers together, and then, and also find out if the contractors are still willing to do it this year, if we make a decision on the 24th, and then we'll make a decision on the 24th.
Mr. Chairman, on page 2 of my report, the math I forgot I put it in the report. It's, the out-of-pocket cost for this project would be $68,303.80,
You were close.
if that helps.
But that doesn't change the fact that we're uncertain at this point whether the contractors are still able to do the work.
I don't know that for a fact, but it's only been a couple weeks. So I think we're safer than waiting another 2 weeks and doing it.
Wait a minute, you just confused me.
Because it was 2 weeks ago we brought it before the board, and I brought it before the board. So that, the bids came in that Thursday or Friday before that. So we're only 2 weeks removed from it versus waiting till the 24th, we're gonna be a month removed from it.
So what are you saying?
I think that we have time to still, by the contract, to award it within 30 days, and it's less time going by. So I would, if you really want to get it done, you could make that motion for that 68,303.48, and I'd call them tomorrow, and if they say no, you just have to rescind the motion, but at least it gets me moving it forward.
the motion could be contingent on the work being completed this year.
Well, Mary Lee's made the motion, we have yet to get a second. Right, is that correct?
Should I change the amount to 68,303 point what?
You could say not more than $70,000 if you really wanted to. It's however you want to make the motion, but if you have a number, you could use that exact number.
If you're making a motion to use ARPA, you should use a number. Or not to exceed number, but a number. And then if there's a few $1,000s short, then we can get that out of the highway carrier, or the sidewalk budget, the sidewalk reserve.
Okay.
How much did we have left on the ARPA?
I brought the wrong one, I brought an old one, but I think it's 661. Is that correct?
I don't have it in front of me, Dick, sorry.
What's the date on yours, Mark?
This is as of 4/19/24.
It's probably pretty accurate. What's 661 still unallocated?
Still unobligated? I can't read it. total of new proposed ARPA's 513. So you have 513 of those items up top that weren't obligated yet. Total amount already obligated, new proposals. I'd have to do some math to do it, because the total ARPA obligated is 845,000 out of that 1.348 million. So I think it's like 513 plus 18.
Yep.
513 plus
Okay, so
18,000.
my memory's a little behind the times. So Mary Lee, if you wanted to amend your motion to
I amend my
68,303
motion.
and also make it contingent on the work being done.
I make a motion that we use $68,500 out of ARPA funds with the contingency that it can be done this year. Did I get
To
everything?
do what?
To complete the project,
The Parsons Hill Sidewalk project?
Parsons Hill project.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor? No, you were,
Are these, so we spent 30,000 already, and if we scrap it, we get what, just the plans? And those could be different next year because the state could change regulations and we'd be sitting with different, or are these plans gonna be,
The plan should be,
be the same.
good. You know, the distance hasn't changed, the location hasn't changed. It's, the cost could change, that's all.
any more thoughts before I call the question?
I would just hate to use that $68,000 of the ARPA funds and then come up all of a sudden when we get closer towards allocating them all and need it for something else. That's my only concern. I mean, we're spending a lot of money on these projects. We know the budget's going up. And, you know, is this really what we need to spend our money on right now? Is my question.
Mr. Chairman, I would really encourage the board to remember back when you use ARPA funds to offset the operating budget and what it did to the current year. So if you're, I guess my point is if you're going to use it to offset costs of something, that if it's operating budget stuff, then you really put us in a jam, because if it's good for that year, and then if you have to add, like we used it for paving, 104,000, and it took it out of the operating budget, spent ARPA, and then the following year we had to put 104,000 plus back in there to make it whole again, and that made the budget go up $104,000. So I would I'm not sure if you were, I don't think you were here at the time, so I just want to make sure you're aware of it.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. I just would wonder if it would be more worthwhile to spend the ARPA money, say, on the next piece of equipment that needs to be replaced. That way, that particular budget item doesn't need to go up for another, you know, for however long it needed to be. You know what I mean? But,
Well, you know, the first year by our thing was 75 grand.
That's a separate discussion.
Yeah.
yeah, but that's what I mean, if we have a piece of equipment that we're putting, you know, $15,000 on for the next 10 years.
I'm going to call
I
the
think
question.
that, in my point of view, this is the perfect project for ARPA money, that it's not a reoccurring expense. It's not going to change the budget one way or another. It's going to improve the infrastructure of the town. Again, in my opinion, having sidewalks from the park and ride to the lake is super important to the future of our community, to give access for current residents and also to promote the tourism that is more important to us every year. Bicycle and pedestrian, that's a really growing part of tourism. My 2 cents.
I'm going to call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
So Mike, you're going to, we haven't awarded a contract though.
Correct.
Do we need to do that tonight as well? Or are you able to move forward without that?
No, I really probably need that, and I can look it up on my computer. I can give you that bid amount.
We can do that in your manager's report.
Okay.
So if you can be
Give me a
prepared
chance
to
to
do
look it
that
up.
by then.
Yeah.
I'm gonna move on to heating oil. We have three bids and,
Mr. Chairman?
yes. We have more than three bids?
No. This is that is the contract award,
Okay.
so that's it. And the name of the company's on the top of the column.
Want to make the motion, or do you want me to have Mark do it?
I don't care.
We have to award the sidewalk contract.
Yep.
So it's,
I would make a motion to approve the sum of 235,000. I would make a motion, do we have to do the sum? Because we gotta pay all that, right, even though the grant,
contractor
the
and the
grant
sum.
comes through us, yeah.
The contractor and the sum.
Yeah, so I would make a motion to approve Champlain Construction Company for the sum of $235,103.87 for the Parsons Hill Sidewalk project.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Now we'll do heating oil bids. Mr. Town Manager, do you have a recommendation?
As soon as I find that heating oil bids one. I did talk to one of the board members that knows a little bit about heating oil. And based upon the price, the fixed price, this is Bob, recommended that we go with the fixed price over the rack this year. So the low bid on, just to make a point that local fuels did not want to give us a fixed price. So Sam's U Save gave us a fixed price of $2.74 per gallon.
The recommendation is Sam's U Save.
Yes, it is.
Do I have a motion?
I would make a motion to grant the heating oil bid to Sam's U Save Fuels for 12 cents over the rack at the time of delivery, or a fixed price of $2.74 per gallon, whichever's lower at the time.
Second.
And is that what they bid, or did they bid one or the other?
They bid both, and we tried to do apples to apples comparison, because originally we only had one, Champlain Valley's is the only one that gave us a fixed price. So everybody gave us over rack, so we went back and said, no, we want a fixed price too, and that's what we got.
So my question is,
We want to go with fixed price.
so we want to rescind the portion of the motion that says 12 cents over rack. Is that correct?
Correct.
So it's one or the other, it's not both? Okay. I'll rescind my motion, and I'll make a motion to award Sam's U Save Fuels the heating oil bid for a fixed price of $2.74 per gallon.
I'll
Do I-
second.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Propane. I'm going to suggest that we stick with Files because they're A, the lowest price, and B, they've been taking care of us for years, and they're doing a fine job. But that's only my suggestion. Do you agree with that, Town Manager?
I do.
So do I have a motion?
Make a motion to grant Files Brothers the propane bid for the fixed price of $1.56 per gallon.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Update of the power box on the town green. I took a look at what's here. I've talked to at least one member of the Lions Club, and the issue of whether it should be in front of the town select board is because we are the landowners, and it's our right and our responsibility to oversee these decisions. Is that what you have found when you did your research today, Mark?
It is, yeah. This is in the town highway,
Right.
the piece of property, and the town highway shall be under the general supervision and control of the selectmen of the town where the roads are located. And that's statutory.
Okay. So we have the authority to make a decision on this.
The
that
sole
correct?
authority.
The sole authority. Okay, so moving on. I really want to do what's right for the Lions. But I think that the Lions have, and Mary, you can speak to this, or Mr. Holden, whoever's delegated to do so, that you're going to try to actually make this structure a little smaller?
Mary McIntyre, and I'm representing the Lions Club, and I'm the co-chairperson of the Lions Club auction for 2024. And the Lions Club has hired a master electrician, David Gothier, and he's here with us tonight, so if he'd come up too. So everything was very transparent with us. We never, we started by coming to you guys.
Yeah. No,
So we could let you know what we wanted to do. So we were a little blown away when we thought we'd gotten permission, and then David got a call. I didn't get a call. David got a call from the zoning administrator. So then I'm hearing bits and pieces, and then I finally got a hold of Karen, and she asked me what my hesitation was to fill out a zoning application, and I said, because I didn't think we needed to. I thought it was a done deal. So we filled it out, and then I still heard, I got all sorts of questions from Karen as to who was building it, how safe was it. Well, we hired a master electrician who's got his livelihood on the line.
Let's set all that aside and move on.
Yep, but I'm just explaining that, so what we wanted was what we first proposed, which I'm guessing you've all seen, which was the 7 by 6. So you've all seen the first proposal?
Yep, that's this one, correct?
No, I don't know, which this one, what is?
This is the one that's 7 foot tall, 6 feet wide. It's got a meter on the left and receptacles on the right.
Yes.
Yep, we got a sketch of it.
Yep. And then, I got more grapevine information that it was kind of, too big. That was what the hesitation was. So David and I got back together, and I said, why must it be so big? And the reason why it was so big initially, and in good faith, was David was building it so that if it needed to expand in the future, we wouldn't have to restructure anything. You could just add to it. But again, in good faith, because we want to try and please the town and do everything as aesthetic as we can, we have made it smaller, and that would be the most recent drawing, which I put together last night and sent electronically via scans, and Karen Stewart said she got that packet to you. So you guys should have the 7 feet high by 4 feet wide. And that is the altered. You have that one.
I haven't been in town all day, so I didn't see it.
In that stuff I handed out, it should be,
Up here.
it should have, start with an email as administration.
Yep, okay. So that's 7 by 4. Can I ask David a question?
Absolutely.
Is it possible to not have, or the PT horizontal, those are horizontal pressure treated boards? Yes?
Yeah.
Is it possible to have those not greater than 12 inches off the ground, or is there a code compliance reason for them to be there?
So my expansion joint needs to be at about 18 inches, and I have to strap that to the board.
Okay,
It's just giving more
said.
structure to my pipe coming out, so yeah.
okay, so there is a reason, okay. Because when I talked to Mr. Brown about this earlier today, Mark, one of my compatriots, he suggested that we place that so that the power panels are all facing the green, which is probably what you planned on anyways, right?
That's, if you read that's exactly what it says, and on the drawings, it says, where you see the meters, it says front view facing cemetery.
Okay,
So on the back side, it's just gonna be the horizontal boards all the way across. So you're not gonna see any meters or anything as you're driving by.
okay, I'm gonna yield it to Mark right now.
So I was looking at this in a way that we could make it more palatable, and a couple ideas. Here's a picture of the sign for the Federated Church. And on the next page is just a generic picture I took from the internet, a sign for a historic cemetery. So I know this would be more expensive, but if you were to have built a sign like that, that said, I'm not quite sure yet, Castleton Historic Cemetery, located on the National List of Historic Places, and had your electrical equipment on the backside of that sign, it would, be really aesthetically a nice addition to the community, and it would give you, you could go back to your original size that added, what was it, 7 by 6?
Yeah, add the 2 feet back.
So you'd have as much area as you wanted. I think it would be a really nice addition. It could be a sign for the historic cemetery or for the new Ethan Allen monument. Just kind of spitballing this right now.
Just something
So
to
the Ethan-
camouflage.
So the Ethan Allen group, the town voted in $4,000 for a party for them? Is
It's
that correct?
reenactment.
Reenactment for $4,000? This little
Is that-
project is costing us $7,000. $7,000, and you want us to put a sign on it too. Can we get some help? I mean, we just gave 500 for catcher's equipment. We gave 500 for the sign, and I've spent countless hours. We've got a master electrician involved. And in order to get approval, we need to pay for a sign too? I mean, I totally agree. You'll see in the smaller one that we could put a peaked roof on it, because that's something Karen mentioned to me. We mentioned prettying it up with flowers, but signs can be really expensive. I mean, just that one Jimmy Casey sign was $470. And it's not as pretty as that.
Right, I'm sure that would add $4,000 or $5,000, guessing. I
That's
don't
a
really
lot
have
for
expertise to
electricity.
guess at that, but.
And for money that we're giving back to the town.
One of the designs for this that I have originally is the 1x6, or the 1x6 boards on the front and back. As you can see, there's no pipe besides the one coming straight up into the meter. Everything's hidden in between.
That makes sense.
That's what I want. I wanted it to be as pretty
Plus,
much.
they're not accessible.
Yeah, not accessible and as clean as possible. So the design right now, the way I have it, maybe we could put a sign, but that takes away the access panel to get to, like, if I ever had to go back in there and run new outlets, I would do it from behind.
Understood. So the sign would have to be removable.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can dream something up, if we collaborate. And then, yeah, I would love to give you some help, Mary. It's not necessarily on you. I just don't want to put a big, huge pressure-treated board up in the middle of, or right on the side of the road there. If we can find some way to make it less, or more aesthetically pleasing, that's all.
I would say Fairhaven, when they've done that new green project, they do have kind of the same setup, but their boards go all the way to the ground. It's kitty cornered, so next time you're in
I
Fairhaven,
went by there as recently as yesterday, and it's on 3 sides, too.
Yep,
It's a lot more noticeable than what you're proposing.
yeah.
I thought.
And the one closer to the fountain in Fairhaven that they have there, that's just
On the mess.
that's plywood on 4x4s. I'm not even sure it's 6x6s, but we'll say 6x6s.
I haven't gone looking for that one. I guess I will.
And, yeah, that's not aesthetically nice to the eye, but I'm sure it's useful. But I would say too, when we had heat pumps put in our house, I was concerned about the aesthetics. And the plumber said, it's the modern times. Look at all the heat pumps around. All anybody's going to do is drive by your house and say, oh, Bob and Mary have a new heat pump. I don't know how much, are they going to see that there is a structure there? Yeah, they are going to see that there's a structure. But I do think that, one, the simpler is sometimes better because it's less maintenance. I mean, who's gonna keep up that sign? If we get a fancy sign, who's gonna repaint it? Who's gonna keep the paint up on it? You know, a sign that deteriorates then has to be replaced. I guess that I don't think that we're asking for a huge lot if we see what it looks like. I think I'd like our club to be given the benefit of the doubt that we are going to do aesthetically pleasing things. I mean, let's look at the pavilions that we've built in this town. Are
Oh, I
they
know.
not, aesthetically pleasing? This is a necessary evil in that it's electricity. We're building it safely. The Green Mountain Power does not want things on the poles, so we're doing what they want. We're building this pedestal. We're outfitting it with the 9 outlets in hopes that that will be plenty. And then I think we have to look at too, because I'm sure we're not the only ones that are thinking this, that when you have a nice setup like that, somebody's gonna dream up a way to use that power resource that's gonna benefit other people in this town too. We will have to obviously be reimbursed for the electricity if we're getting the bill. But, I mean, it could be a very positive resource. But I don't think on behalf of the Lions Club that I can say, yeah, we'll put up a fancy sign like that. I don't have that kind of, I have the authority to okay $7,000. That's the full amount that we can do. This is
Okay, I
taking action.
have my thoughts, but I'm going to ask the town manager and the rest of the board to speak, and then we'll decide where we go from here.
If that roof was put on that, and I could come back to the board looking at town lands, and if we have money that can be encumbered into the next fiscal year to get that a sign made that Mark has suggested, maybe that's an option. And then, because if the electricity's there and they can put a light on it and that sign's lit, that might be a nice.
But who's
like
gonna
the
pay
Federated
for that
Churches.
constant running light?
What's that?
Who's gonna pay for that constantly
I
running
could
light?
put a solar light in there and probably do the same thing.
Well-
But if it was electricity, again, it wouldn't be, it would be something we'd have to pick up, but
Because
we're talking pennies on the year, for the year.
Right, but we turn off the electricity now because we don't want an encampment there. Somebody has access to that whole bank of 9 outlets. You're gonna have a little camp out there. People, Mark's been worried about, and rightfully so, vagrants moving about. They find out that there's free electricity that they can plug into.
Mary, I want to ask
and have tents.
Dave a couple questions. Is there some way to make those receptacles secure so that if there was power to the meter, Joe Johns can come down and plug something in and run it?
Well, like Mary said, it's an outdoor rated box, this meter breaker box. It'll have 16 spaces, and it'll have a locking mechanism. So when the Lions Club leaves, they turn all the breakers off, then lock it. So the outlets themselves, if I believe right, the ones that I ordered, they do have little ports that you can put locks on, but if you're turning off the power,
Agreed. So if there was power going to a light over a sign, that could be left on.
that could.
And then we'd have to discuss who's going to pay for the electricity,
But I do like the idea of the
Which
solar.
wouldn't be
I have
much.
no problem with the solar.
right? It wouldn't be much per month, because isn't there a monthly charge just to have the meter?
Yeah, it's $30 a month just to have the meter,
Then-
and if we're talking LEDs,
LED lights, you're talking pennies, right?
15 watts.
Yeah.
I think it's 23 cents a watt right now, so, and that's over, it's probably be like $10 by the end of the month.
So
If
I'm
that.
sure we could work out some way to pay for that if we decided to do that. So I have my thoughts. Anything else from the board before we either present a motion or don't?
I did see one such thing in West Rutland, and I didn't find it disturbing.
So do I have a motion?
One more question. Do you think that For the time being, it would be, it would blend in if it was painted a green color as opposed to natural wood.
You have the paint, the maintenance of the paint all the time, Mark.
What's that?
So then you're gonna have the maintenance of the paint, you have to paint it every couple of years.
And paint pressure treated is,
It's never a good thing.
It
doesn't
rolls
like
right
to stay.
off.
Yeah, generally.
Yeah, it's just that you're gonna let the pressure treated dry a couple of years either before you can paint it, or it's just gonna come right back off.
Do I have any sort of a motion from the board for anything on this?
I don't know how to word it.
Take your best shot.
Take my best shot. I make a motion that we take this last page,
What I'm gonna call Plan B.
Plan B, I
It
guess.
says right at the bottom on page A1 of 3, A meaning altered, A1 of 3, it said altered plan, if you want to make reference to that.
Altered plan it is.
Okay.
I'm sure if you build it, Dave, we can figure out some way to make it look good, right?
Sure, yeah.
We'll figure something out.
This is the
Yeah, it'll
original
look
one.
clean.
Mary Lee doesn't have, there's a right here,
it's in her
maybe?
packet, there
It's
should
right
have
here.
been.
It's right here. Here's the alternate plan. You were
Okay.
looking at the
before
wrong one.
before she makes that motion.
Got too many,
Can I ask a question?
too many choices here.
Mary Lee, hold up for just a second. Go ahead, Mike.
One of the things that was brought to my attention was by the zoning administrator, was there was a 10-foot pole that had to be, this has to be mounted to or on. Is that, don't see it in here. Is that a true
The
statement?
distance to the pole is 10 feet, but that's negotiable with GMP. I've worked with them quite a bit. I've dealt with Erica, and I've dealt with, it's her boss, Chris Gandon, who I've spoke with 3 times now. And if we get Erica on site, she'll tell us what's realistic. 10 feet's just kind of the minimum that they give. They're like, I'll just put it 10 feet. It's not set in stone, it's negotiable.
It's 10 feet from the existing, from the pole, but it's not a 10-foot pole being added.
Oh, no.
That's what I
no.
was, that's when I was explained to me at that, I'm like, God, they have another 10-foot telephone pole there too?
No.
No.
10 feet's just a nominal distance from the pole to
From
the
the pole.
panel.
Yeah, but
That's, yeah, they usually can deal with that.
Yeah,
Or
that-
they'll deal with you.
Yep, Erica will definitely work with us on that.
And as long as you can make it safe, that's all that really matters.
Yep.
And put it in a spot that's not any worse than what's already there.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
try again?
Let's have a motion now.
Okay, I make a motion that we allow the Lions Club to instigate alternate plan to be erected, is it Town Green? Is
The
it
town right away adjacent to the town green.
in the town right away, adjacent to the Town Green?
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
So just to clarify, that's for the 4-foot wide by 7-foot tall structure that's gonna be PT on both sides.
Yes.
And then after it's built, the
That's with
town.
the roof, correct?
Well, I think at this point, we'll just let them put it up and get through this auction, and then the town and the Lions Club will collaborate to make it more aesthetically pleasing. Is that reasonable?
Okay, so yeah, we'll leave the 1 foot above.
Do you agree with that, Mary?
Yes.
So we'll leave the 1 foot above, which has always been there potentially for a roof.
Yep.
So, but we can come back.
Then we'll
to
dream
that.
up some plan to make it nice. And still enable you to be able to work on it if you need to.
Yes.
And I'm sure we can dream something up. There's a lot of talent in this town. I'm sure we can dream something up that'll make it look good.
And I appreciate that. I mean, we did have some members say, oh, $7,000, but, then others said, this auction generates not only a lot of revenue, but if we were to cancel this auction, there'd be people that would be really upset because this is a town attraction. I mean, this is an annual event for people. So it's just a win-win.
Well, I've always wanted to see you get it done.
Yeah.
It just turned out to be bigger, so we had to revisit it, that's all.
Yep, absolutely.
So I'm ready to call the question unless there's more
I'd
from
like
the
to
board.
make one remark. I am a lion. But there's no personal
There's
gain
no
for me
conflict.
whatsoever.
There's no
so
conflict
No
whatsoever.
conflict.
As long as there's no personal or financial gain for you.
And I'm aligned too, and there's nothing gained on this, but not that I'm voting, but that's my whole presentation.
That's specific to the board, the
Right. Yes, I
conflict of
understand
interest.
that.
So I'm going to call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Go ahead.
Perfect.
I'm not sure what the logistics are with the town, with the ZA, but I'm sure that's not a big deal.
No, I thought you guys had power over that, so we didn't need to go to the,
That's my
Yes.
interpretation.
We approved the zoning,
Just
permit.
said,
yeah, so we're good.
We
to-
approved the zoning, the permit application. So I think that's all that's left to do is for the ZA to issue a permit, which she is now directed to do, and then you can get a bill.
Okay.
Tomorrow's Tuesday. She works
No-
Tuesday.
And no fee, right?
I want to waive the fee for them,
I thought that was a given. That's within your authority to do. You don't need us to do that.
just so it's clear, so you.
Yeah, and Mike had, I think you even put that in writing.
Does the board agree with that? That it's within Mike's authority to do that?
Agreed.
So that's
The
done.
Lions do a lot for the town,
So
so.
that's done. Okay,
Thank you very much.
you're most welcome. Sorry I had to go through all this, but, we gotta do it by the book.
We got it figured out now. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, what's next? Transfer station fee schedule. Mike, you wanna give us a short blurb on what's changed?
Yes. So, and I did, just for transparency, I did talk to Bob on this as well. And I believe that's him online, the 67.
Oh, he is here now.
6170. Talking it over with our accountant, talking it over with the folks at the transfer station, and then Bob, we're about $20,000 we need to make up on an average. The only reason that we're in the black is because we've been underspending the operating budget, but there's gonna come a day where that doesn't happen, because we need bins or something. So by changing the bag fees, to the small bag, the 13-gallon bags to $2.50, and the up to 33 gallons to $5, that's gonna help close the gap almost entirely. But then what I found out is that we're paying $40 to get rid of a mattress when we bring it down over to New York. So we're able to put some in bins. We can put one or two, usually one, in a bin with a couple tires and help get rid of some of that when we bring it down there. But if they see it now, they're going to bring it to our attention. And so there's a couple different things that are dynamics that are going on with the mattresses. Is we're paying 40, we were charging 19. But I think if you put on here $40 to get rid of it, I mean, to me, that's a lot of money to get rid of a mattress, and they might end up in the quarry or in the back roads, but that could be. I'm kind of being facetious, but then the other things on this list, the dressers the dressers went up $1. The Freon, we were charging $15, but we're getting charged up to $18 now, possibly even going higher, from the vendor that comes in and recaptures or reclaims that refrigerant. The carpets under 100 square feet went up $1. Tires went up $1, and we really can't change the scale fee. I mean, $180 is way more than most people around us. So that's not a lot of. I don't think that would really help us at all. So by changing the bag fees, that's going to really close the gap. We experimented with changing the permit fees in the past, and that was a lot of ire with that one. And then people just started buying temporary passes, and really it cost them more if they go every week. But if you want to be that way.
How many
obstinate-
temporary passes do we sell in a year, do you know?
Give me a second. Last year was $1,056 worth of temp passes. Not a lot.
What, $5 a day or $4 a day?
It's $5 for a temp pass.
I mean, that's cheap in my opinion, if somebody was here for a day, if they were doing work or something like that, and they didn't want to run all the way to Rutland. I mean, $5 for a temporary pass to be able to dump an unlimited amount of brush, or an unlimited amount of clean wood, or an unlimited amount of bricks is cheap money. And that's all stuff that we have to handle. I mean,
So you're saying?
I would think that
raise
you
the-
could raise that to $10 and be fine. I mean, that's still cheap money for anybody that's in town for a temporary.
Even 20.
That's just my opinion. I mean, if you had a contractor that's in town and they gotta run 6 truckloads of bricks to wherever they're taking them, let's say Rutland, spending $10 or $20 to bring them in and get rid of them here for free, we still have to deal with that mess afterward.
Well, that would be about $2,102 or $12.
So that solves 5% of the problem.
I mean, it's your call on it. I think there's many of us have said is a pretty cheap date. For
That's
$5.
that's just my opinion is, you know, you can make a little extra there.
Yep.
Even like Mark said, $20, I mean,
Well, if we changed it to $10 and we realized $1,000 more in income or revenue, what are the odds of us being 21,000 short instead of 20? Pretty good?
I
And
mean,
then
it's year to year, Dick. I mean,
bag fee increases I thought were reasonable, 50 cents and, what was it, 50 cents for each, right?
yeah, that's fine.
That's reasonable.
that's still pretty much the cheapest around.
And I know that Mr. Spalding agrees with me that this should be self-funding, that the taxpayers shouldn't be subsidizing this, that it should be, the users pay for it. And I think I agree with that, and I think some of you do.
Yeah,
So,
As long as it stays reasonable enough so we don't have to pay the town crew to pick it up next to the road.
correct, which I do at no charge. My dip is a pretty popular spot, by the way.
Bob did mention that the microwaves, we're charging $5, and he said if it's metal, you take the glass out of it,
goes in the scrap.
and then throw that in the scrap heap. I'm just not sure if those can go in the scrap heap. If that's some rule, so I had to look at that. I haven't got an answer on that one. Jake will be here tomorrow. But I don't know, Heath might not answer it. I don't know.
I would,
What's that?
Microwaves, can they go in metal recycling?
I don't know if there's anything in them now that the components has to come out, but they used to always be able to go in with metal.
Without taking the glass out?
Yeah, they used to just go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that might be something to look into wherever we're hauling our scrap to, is what can and what can't go.
Right.
like
And
bottom
Jake will be
line.
here tomorrow. I'll get an answer on that one.
but then,
She asked me, can I ask 5 cents to this? The day passes, you're using that to contractors, we have a lot of them that are people that have stayed at a camp or something and just coming in to get rid of their stuff out of the camp. It's not the big, what you're thinking of on the day passes. So, just so you look at that aspect too when you're considering it. The one up there that, as I've run it in the last year, that drives me nuts is how many people go over the scales for a minimal charge. If you could consider running, if there was a way, a mechanism that increase the minimal charge on the scales, I think would generate you a lot of revenue, because during the day you write a ton of tickets for under 100 pounds, because people know that if they've got 3 bags of trash, it's only $10 to go over the scales, and it's, what did you just say,
It was five. It would have been five or $4.50 for
$4.50 times 3.
$13.50.
So if you got under 100 pounds and 3 bags, it's cheaper to go over the scales. So you write a ton of tickets for 70, 80 pounds of garbage. People are going over their scales because the minimal scale fee is only $10.
Yeah, they know.
labor
the game
cost
now.
goes up.
And if it was bagged, they'd be paying 25 or 35 or.
Yeah, if they got 4 or 5 little bags, it would be 12, 13, 14, 15 bucks.
Well, I would rather go over the scales than buy bag stickers, even if I only had 3 bags of garbage. Just because you gotta stop, buy the bag sticker, screw around with all that, stick the sticker on, and then throw it in. So do we wanna raise the minimum price up on that?
See, I'm the other way around. I'd rather buy the sticker so I don't have to mess around going over the scale.
Yeah, the scale's easy. I'd rather go over the scale in my
That's-
opinion, but
You know,
that's 6 of one, half dozen of another, but.
That's a good point. Well, I think the bag fee increase, everybody agrees on.
agreed.
The minimum on the scale should probably be 25. I mean, somebody's got to do that ticket, right?
But then, it goes up in increments of 100 pounds.
After, it's a minimum up to 100 pounds, and then over 100 pounds, it goes up.
By the ton.
No, by the pounds.
by the
So,
pound.
so there's a sliding scale, so when they go across there and they had 200 pounds of garbage, the guys look at the scale and or the chart and say, 200 pounds is this much. So if you raise the minimum, scale fee,
You gotta raise it all.
you gotta
up.
raise it all, and now we're already at $180 a
Well, wait
ton.
minute. What would the fee be if you had 200 pounds of garbage? Would it be,
Without looking at the chart on a wall. I
would it be
couldn't-
20 bucks, do you think?
It was,
No, it doesn't work like that.
I don't.
Where I'm, I guess where I'm
Just
going with
raise the
this
minimum to
is,
20.
Yeah, just call it and then leave the rest alone.
Yeah.
the minimum fee on the scale is $20, and then after whatever $20 is, 218 pounds or 304, I don't.
Well, no, the minimum fee is $20 for the first 100 pounds. And then after that, it goes back to the scale, to the regular scale fee.
Well, it would actually dip then.
Yeah, it would go back
Yeah,
down.
If you
that's
had
what I'm
like
saying.
110. So it'd be 20 pounds up to wherever
It
that
balances out.
balances out and then up. Because you got labor every time. Somebody's got to run the scale.
So let's agree to raise the minimum scale fee to $20, and then the town manager can figure out what the weight should be. Is that reasonable?
But how many, so if they, let's just say you raise it $20 and
So it's up
it goes from
to-
100 pounds to 200 pounds, now that, can they still game it? It'd be a lot of garbage, I guess, to game,
You'd
a
have to have
lot of
6 bags.
bags.
Be a lot of bags to game it.
Yeah, so that would maybe a deterrent by doing that.
Well, I mean, you'd have to save your you'd have to
Guys
save
with
your
3
garbage.
bags wouldn't be going over the scales.
Right.
Yeah.
Do people come in with cars and go over the scale, or just
Oh, yeah.
trucks?
Yeah, because I know if they have 3 bags, or 4, let's say 4 bags, that'd be, it was $2, that's $8, then it's cheaper to just throw them in the bin, because it's $10 minimum scale fee. It's when the bigger bags come in, those,
The green
the
bags.
33-gallon ones, those were $4.50, and you come in with 3 of those, and if I had to pay for them, it'd be $13.50, but if I go over the scale, as long as it's less than 100 pounds, it's only $10.
Yeah. See, I never looked at it like that. I always just looked at it. I don't want to deal with the hassle of buying stickers, so I'm going over the scale, but I get what you're saying.
Just-
People that know will
I
game.
wasn't trying to game the system, but
Well, and I'm thinking about the labor to the town, too.
yeah.
If
But
there's,
it's the printer running, it's somebody weighing them in, weighing them out, every time being there
Yeah.
at the windows. It's
There's-
just more labor intensive. It's just that extra process when they're running over for scale minimums.
Okay, I got a question for you, and I know you can't answer it. All the, Billy's feed was in those big bags. So he, as they tear off and whatnot, he goes over the scale, and it's something like $30. So how much weight did he just bring over the scale? I mean, that's the only way he could go anyway. He wouldn't be putting
I
it
didn't
in
look at
a...
the scale, because that 180 is the breakdown, because that's 180 per ton. So you break down 180 into 2,000 pounds, and then we break it down to 100-pound increments above and beyond that 10. So
Okay, it's just usually right around 30, 35, whatever.
and there's.
Probably
bas-
250, 300 pounds.
And it's the way we're doing this change, it wouldn't change what he paid anyways.
Yeah.
So how do we want to word this? If we're, I think we should leave the temporary pass alone, change the minimum scale fee, and the rest of it as presented. It's my opinion.
Now
Because
that,
I think Mr. Goyette's comment that, there's a lot of people that come up for a weekend at the lake, and they just want to dump their garbage on the way out of town. Or is that what you were saying, basically?
There's a lot of people that aren't, I don't ever see, once in a while you'll see a contractor that'll come in, but it's very rarely that, it's mostly the people that are bringing 2 bags of garbage. They'll buy a day pass and
2 stickers. You know what I'm saying? And that,
People that are camping here, not camp owners.
and some of them might be, I don't know if they're camp owners or not, Mark, but some of them that are up here 3 times a year, it's
Right.
$15 versus the 40, you know.
And
what
they
I'm
still have to
saying?
pay the bag fee, so,
They still pay the back.
okay.
Could be rentals, couldn't it? People
Yeah,
that
Could be,
rent.
yeah.
The rentals
Yep,
you
that
guys
makes
are
sense.
trying to deal with, you know,
Can I throw in one more thing in this one? It's not, it doesn't say it on the agenda, but, we're still accepting cash. And I'm doing this on behalf of those that have to deal with the cash, is that our auditors have every year said opens it up to fraud in a huge way. And it's a nightmare for counting and change and all that stuff. And so they've asked me to approach you, about getting rid of cash and just using checks or cards up there.
Okay, I'm gonna cut you off right there. That's a discussion for another time.
All right, well, I saw it on here, that's why. It's on here. It says we accept cash, check, or credit card, so.
And at this point, we can discuss that, but not tonight.
And I'm striking out because I go over the scales and I pay with cash every time at the dump, so.
So let's make a decision on the transfer station fees and move on. What's your pleasure, board?
I would make a motion that we accept the changes in permit fees and include raising the scale minimum to $20.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Do we have any more discussion?
We just gotta make sure that that $20 balances out.
We're gonna empower the town manager to figure out what the weight for that $20 minimum fee should be. Whether it be 150, 200, it should be an increment of 25 pounds, whatever that is, Mike. You know, round it to the transfer station's favor within reason, and pick a number, okay?
Okay.
I'm gonna call the question then. All in favor? Aye. Bob's not here anymore. No, Bob's here. Is that Bob?
I believe it is, but.
Can you hear me, Bob? Okay, moving on. Managers report. Can you give us the Reader's Digest version tonight, Mike?
I can try to.
We'll start on page 20.
I'm on, bleeds over into from page 2 into page 3 on the stormwater mitigation for the salt and sand shed. Just to catch you up, I'm dealing with Pete Pochop from the state for V-Trans and our municipal project manager to try to get clarification on what we can build. And we're running into roadblocks with, we can't say to him, we want to use this design. And he's like, well, you can't do that. It's got to go through this process. And so at the end of the day today, matter of fact, this project, because of this NEPA, it's environmental protection, environmental policy, something, administration or something like that. It's called NEPA. They're saying that that's going to take a year long to get completed, and which means I can't apply for the $200,000 in additional funding that would open up this fall. So it'd have to be next November. And this project would be kind of delayed into 2027.
So we couldn't use ARPA money to.
We go beyond ARPA. So I called a local contractor today who's in Florida right now, who's putting together some numbers for me to stick build a building that would mirror or mimic the current salt and sand shed, a little bigger, to see what that cost would be.
Perfect.
And that way you'll have at least enough information to, depending on what it comes back in at, is we use money we already have in our coffers, or continue, go on and say, let's work through this process to use the grant.
And that's because of all the process requirements that are attached to
from
that
Bob.
grant?
Yes.
Why it's coming to me, I don't know.
I'm sorry, Mary.
We just got
There's a
something
message from Bob, just, I don't know why
on
it
the
came to me,
transfer
but.
station.
He said the motion on the transfer station is not right if you were not changing permit fees, as Mark stated. We agreed not to change the permit fees, correct?
For the temporary permit, yeah.
Yeah, we agreed not to change them
Yeah.
For the temporary or the regular one?
for either one.
For the temporary.
The regular permit stayed the same, right?
Yeah.
That was
And
40, and the
agreed not to
temporary stayed
change-
the same.
So you kept the temporary at $5?
Yeah.
Correct.
Correct.
We
All we
accepted your
changed-
proposal with upping the minimum skill fee.
And the
I didn't make a
bags.
note, that's what I was wondering. I didn't make a note
Whose phone
of
is that, Mary Lee's?
Yep.
the temporary one.
So, Bob, if you can hear us, we decided not to change the day pass fee. We're gonna leave that at $5. So back to the salt shed. So can we build, not necessarily anything we want, but anything within reason if we just use our own money?
That's what I'll have a little more information once I get the information back. I don't want to use his name, but we probably all know him. But I'll have that information for you shortly. He's gonna put together, to include a height in, like, the arch in the end side so that they can raise a truck and be able to dump in there too. And a door, but he said, you want an opening or a door? And I said, an opening. So he's talking about wide enough to be able to move stuff in and out. And I asked him if we should put a door on the other end of it for like airflow, and he said, no, you don't want to do that. That will catch the roof and you'll be chasing your roof. So he said, don't do that. So-
Well, let's see what the proposal is and we'll go from there.
Right. So that was just no good news from the grant side. I think I caught you guys up on the Better Roads grants that we filed for 3 of them. We got none of them.
Yep.
The grants and aid, though, I found out from Ross Gowan, that if we have money left over from the Griffin Road project, which is due this summer, that we could, by September, that we could use that on other road segments. So if we're not gonna lose it, we can utilize as much as we can to get more hydrologically connected, non-compliant segments, so. Oh, this is the ugly one. I'm on page 6. I didn't want to go here. Wastewater collection system expansion. And I don't know if you read my action needed on page 7. But Aldrich and Elliott was down on Depot Terrace today, doing some core samples and boring down there. They had a concern about fiber optics. There was one they didn't know if they would be able to drill right there or bore right there, but they were there today, and they said maybe all but one they'll be able to do. And the neighbor down there didn't shoot anybody, so always good. But knowing that this project is a lot less money and a lot less contentious, I'm just recommending the board take a look at it and maybe look at your priorities for Crystal Heights versus Depot Terrace. If you get a lot of pushback from Crystal Heights, what it seems like by the chat at the last meeting and people that were in the room and stuff, there's people that are questioning the price, questioning do they have to connect and those type of things. So the less people that connect, it would cost more for those people that want to connect to pay that share, and that might put it out of reach for some people too. So just something to think about.
While I'm thinking about it,
Yep.
how many people is going to be affected for Depot? Is it
3,
houses on the way down to Mark's place?
possibly 3.
Who else is affected?
Well, the old Manning place and Si's house, and then Mark's business are the 3 on that road.
No, there's,
Is there another house?
yeah,
Bert, is that right?
Bert's.
Okay, that's not Manning's old place?
No.
No, that's between Manning's and Blissfield Road.
So I stand corrected, so 4. But-
Okay, so those 4 people, do they have a usable septic system right now? And will they be forced to pay for a part of that sewer system?
That's question has not been answered on that road either. The health officer's looking into the ones that are on on Crystal Heights. That individual that was in there talking about it, that he had a newer septic system. We could not find a state or local permit on that, so either it got done without a permit or it's not 2 or 3 years old. But because the ordinance, and I have it right here, the ordinance basically said if the health officer determines that there's a healthy system there, then the Board of Sewer Commissioners could, didn't say they must, could waive the requirement to hook up. What's missing out of that component, or that pie, is what would if they wanted to hook to it in the future, what would that look? How do you set that right now to say it would cost you this much in the future? That's not been ironed out either. So there's more moving parts there than probably down on Depot Terrace. And if you're thinking about using sewer, because that was a discussion in a previous sewer meeting, was using sewer reserve. So if you chose to go that route, I forgot what that project was, like $180,000 or something like that, close to it.
In round number, that was 172 sticks in my mind, but that could be wrong.
And we had some money for engineering as well, but, and hiring Fuss and O'Neill.
Is there already water down there?
Down there, no,
No. So we're talking just sewer?
just sewer.
The water stops on the side of the tracks?
And the fire district has been engaged on that in the past, and they had no desire to pursue that. One of the comments was it would be tedious, or a lot of work to paint in the rear end, whatever, to go underneath the railroad tracks and get the permission to do all that, so, but I don't know if they ever looked at it.
That's another question. Seeing how Amtrak goes zooming through, twice, 3 times a day? Are you actually going to have to remove the tracks, or do you bore under the tracks? How do you get a sewer system?
It's already on the other side of the
Sewer's already
tracks.
under the tracks.
Oh, so the sewer's on the other side,
Sewer
okay.
goes to Misty Heather.
Okay, I was thinking it was on this side.
Water does not, so they're 2 separate animals.
Okay,
So just something to think about as, as this, because ARPA funds are a consideration, sewer reserve is a consideration, and just leaving it at that. I don't have any quotes yet for the cammering, so nothing in there. Grinder pump, you already did that. I'm on page 9. You already did the grinder pumps, highway department, parking lot. So it's not line striped at the library yet, but I got a quote for $600 if we could wait 2 weeks. And if we had to have it now, it's gonna be $1,200. I'm like, we can wait 2 weeks. I made a mistake on page 10. The single axle that's red tagged is for a kingpin. So Evan was gonna call over to Earl's and try to get an appointment in July. So that after we cross the fiscal year boundaries, that we can get that over there to be repaired. And then the other one was, I believe it was a tandem, needed tires. And that'll be after July 1st as well. The board, I'm on page 13, top, under action needed. It's for Dewey Field. On the ARPA sheet, there is some stuff that I recommended for the fields. And I'll get a better sense of where we're at with this, the resolution that we have and the money that's in there and the regular budget of, do those numbers need to be massaged based on what's been done already? Because this was based on a lot of stuff not being done. So that, I'll come back to that one. And I'm not sure if the board is aware of this, but I think you should be. Crystal Beach, some days when it's cloudy or cold or windy or people don't want to be people probably won't go to the beach. Martha makes a decision now in the morning and lets John and myself know if the beach staff won't be there. The beach is still opened up because the maintenance staff is there, but it takes about $100 to break even running the beach, so, to pay people to be there. So on those days where it's drizzly or crappy, it stays open if people want to go in there and enjoy the rain or the wind or whatever. But it's open to the public, but we're not collecting any money because historically it costs more to run it than we take in. So if you get asked why, that's the answer why. The police car, as of today, I still don't have the purchase and sales agreement to order that car. I'm on page 17. This is where the resolution, I read it this weekend, and I talked to Chief Goyette, and he's got Ed Eaton coming in to do the pump servicing and testing, and I asked him about the invoice to get it before the 30th, and but I looked at the resolution. There's actually money, Heath, that was carried over from last year to do that stuff, so we should talk about what.
We used that already, but I didn't catch you today because you were busy.
Okay, yeah. Well, if you can stop by and see me, we'll get that ironed out. Let's see, then there's the note still for the UTV and all that. Common area, I'm on page 18. So Rob and I went up there, looked at that dock space. We didn't see anything, that there was a violation of anything. I did receive a call from the complainants today and asked to meet with me to talk about it. So as far as what you and I saw, we didn't see anything.
Everybody's within their area.
Right, yeah.
And those particular people could actually move over a couple feet to the south, I guess it would be, if they wanted to.
Yeah.
So.
I'm on page 18 still, the action needed for the 5 parcels of town land. Never really asked the board the question of whether you want me to get a state forester to come in there and look at that property. The one behind Crystal Meadows, that about 60-acre parcel. Do you want me to pursue that? I don't know if there'll be a charge, but probably not from the state, but I'll go up there and at least get him to put something on paper that, is just ripe for select cutting and, getting some money out of the lumber, the timber that comes off it.
I think you should.
Yeah, I would
I
agree
would
with
think
that.
so, yeah.
All right, so I'll pursue that.
I mean, that property's pretty well landlocked anyway, so.
Well, people do hunt up there, so they'll like it when it's got some.
Well, if it's done responsibly, any harvesting of wood.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
It's
gotta
done
hire
responsibly.
a reputable person to do the
If you have a
job,
forester
obviously.
to designate what gets harvested and then somebody that does it.
Is there any questions from the board on the West Crystal Haven, where we're at with that for the stormwater?
Yeah, where are we at with that?
So, well, that I think I shared with you in an email that we're approved for the grant.
Yes.
So now the engineer and Hillary are gonna have to work with the landowners, the landowners up there, to see if they'll allow for that settling ponds to be on there. And if they don't, that kind of puts us a little twist on it. And they'll have to let us know whether or not just the catch basin with a sump in it will be adequate, and they'll fund it. I want to make sure that, I'm trying to keep the funding in place, so we don't have to look at it out of our own pocket. But I noticed up there, there's ledge right there by the entrance to that culvert that goes underneath the road over through Mr. Kearns' property. So I'm waiting to hear back on what they find out about the easements and then be able to shift off that.
So the status of the culvert on Mr. Kern's property, that culvert is degraded?
It is.
And do we have any avenues to get grant funding to help repair that, or are we on our own? So are we doing anything about creating a plan to fix that problem?
Well, I was wanting to find out, waiting to hear about the catch basin, so we know how to tie into it. before we dig up and put a new pipe in there and find out we're not at the right elevations and, you know, that kind
Are
of
we
stuff.
still at issues with the easement and its location?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I think he's
I've
just.
gone up there and checked that a couple of times. You know, I was there Saturday after it had rained, and there was about an inch of water, clear water going into that pipe. So when I was turning around, two residents came out, a woman who I believe is one south of Kearns,
Okay, yep.
and she was concerned about the Jersey barriers. She was hoping they could be moved 20 feet up the road, so they could turn around, and I don't have an opinion on it, I'm just mentioning it.
Well, that's part of the, I did receive a message from Ray Lamore, oh, shoot, I shouldn't have said that, damn it. Sorry, Ray. About closing that road off, and can we revisit that with the select board? So I'll come back to you at a different date and time when, because I suppose there's minutes out there saying that was done by petition, and you and the select board back in like 2018 or 19, that people came in asking that question, and Joe Bruno was the chairman and said it was done by petition, so if you want to change it, get a petition. And nobody ever came in with a petition. But the request I got was, why is this road closed off? People should be able to drive around, it's a town road, and not just be open in the winter for plowing, but for any purpose. So I'll have to come back to you with that one.
Have we determined if that road's on town property? Because Tom Kearns had a sketch there that showed maybe some of it wasn't on town property.
Probably was the same one that he had that said we didn't have an easement.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a survey map that was done.
We
I
do
don't
have-
know who it was done by, but
I also spoke to a gentleman that was there who indicated he owned the property just to the south of that new road. And he said that it was on town property, but it's right on the edge of his pen. He goes, you can't expand anything south.
yeah. Okay.
And there was actually town land when they were working up there originally about fixing the roads. Brent Clark was the foreman, and they found the deeds saying that we had property up there. So it's their stuff is there.
Okay.
I have to compare it to what Tom has.
This fellow also said that Tom Kern's uncle is the one that put that culvert in. Not that that proves anything, really.
There's a lot of hearsay and speculation up there, and I found it's best to wait till you find out what's really fact.
Yeah.
Hopefully the engineers will come up with a plan that is workable for everybody
That would be nice.
and doesn't cost
That's what
us
they're
any money.
that's what they're supposed to do. Well, the first part at least, maybe not the second part.
And the other thing on the stormwater was the Hillary's grant. They also funded the one for the village. I think I shared that with you as well. It was in the email. More to follow on that one, because there's a lot of work to do on that one. She's actually talking to people about putting these settling ponds and stuff on their property and stuff, so. And the last thing on that page, on 20, the problem trees, we have a quote out there to take 2 trees down in the village, but I got an email late this afternoon that they're gonna be up this week, working at Crystal Beach to remove those dead trees above the playground equipment. And I spoke to Martha today about getting some wood chips, because they have to put more wood chips around it, so that is moving forward, and they're using that new lift.
Yeah, there's one big tree down there that's would be the north end of the beach. Some of the branches on that one don't look too healthy either.
Most of those willow trees are
Yeah.
dying from the inside out.
Yeah, I don't know. We might want to look into doing something with that before we run into a problem.
Now that we have that lift and we can do some other stuff on our own, that might
Yeah.
be a perfect, winter project. But, all right, Baron, your questions, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
I have no questions. Any other questions from the board?
I have none.
Then we're going to move on to purchase orders. Would you do the honors, Rob?
Yep. I would make a motion to approve purchase order 052038 to the VFIS for the First Response Pension Fund for the sum of $7,500.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I would make a motion to approve purchase order 052279 to NEMRC for the annual support agreement from 7/20/24 to 7/19/25 for the sum of $5,642.
Wait a minute. You said until 7/19/25?
That's what it says on the.
Oh, okay.
On
Do
the
I have a
purchase order
second?
says that?
I'll second it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because it's probably
For contractual for a year for Nemrick, right?
Nemrick, so that's our accounting software.
Yep.
Did I get a second?
I did.
Any discussion? All in favor?
You want me to do warrants too?
Certainly.
I would make a motion to approve warrant number 0610R for $2,409.50. Warrant number 0607 for the sum of $40,713.36. Warrant number 0610 for the sum of $43,814.16. Warrant number 0530P for the sum of $21,830.83. And warrant number 0606P for the sum of $21,821.43.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the warrants? All in favor?
Aye.
There's the first three, Rob. There's only five. I think I even signed them in the right place this time.
Yep.
I don't know why I signed them in my old spot last week, or last time. But that was my spot for 10 years. So I think while we're signing the warrants, we can move forward with select board comments. Mark, do you have any?
I have no comments this evening.
Rob, do you have any?
I think we got them all.
Fine.
Is that Bob Spalding on the phone?
It is.
Bob Spalding, do you have any select board comments?
I just had a question, a real quick question. Who opens and closes the Crystal Beach gate every day?
Typically, it's a maintenance staff.
Maintenance staff, so they open it at a certain time and close it at a certain time, Mike?
Yeah, the normally doesn't, the beach doesn't open till 10, but
Oh, okay.
the maintenance
Okay.
staff is in there before 10 working.
Okay.
Is there an issue, Bob, or you want, is there something wrong?
No, no, other than Martha would have to get a hold of them every single day, or, that's all. I just don't know how the logistics work, that's all.
Yeah, no, Ken McGraw lives across the road. He does a lot of the,
Oh,
he's first one there usually.
okay, so he can close it at dusk at night when they close it, so it's not an issue.
Correct, we haven't, we haven't gone, the signs are ordered for that, and they're not in yet, to do the whole no trespassing dusk to dawn.
Okay. They still lock the gate though, right? I mean, they don't just leave the gate open 24/7, right?
They have been.
Yeah, it's been locked.
So they don't lock it, so is that what you just said, Mike?
No, it's locked.
It's locked, so every single night it goes over at dusk and locks it, and in the morning it goes over and unlocks it.
Or the last person, it may not be him locking it at night, it could be the person that's the person that are closing up.
Okay,
But in the morning, because they're not there until 10, the maintenance folks are there before, they're usually there by 8 o'clock or earlier.
okay.
You got five? You got five? You have 5?
Yeah.
Okay. Mary Lee, you said you were all set, right?
Yes.
And I am all set. I have no comments. So do we have any action items that we need to follow up on that Mike doesn't already know about?
In your, I handed out for the next, because Chief's not here, but this is, he went back and made the changes that you'd asked him to do, but he's got some housekeeping, he's got to fix something here. I highlighted it, but once I get a copy of that, we'll get it back before the board to, he did change the mileage though, so if you're aware, if you haven't read it yet, it went from 15 miles to 18 miles. Because they were talking about that New York stuff, so he had one of his officers measure from the state line to his driveway, and it was not 15, it was 18 miles. So he changed it to 18. So he can still do what the spirit of this thing is.
That's the officer that lives in Granville?
Hebron maybe.
Okay, well, in that area.
Yep. And we also have another police officer moving 3 houses down from him. So it'll apply to 2 people.
So do we need an executive session?
Yes. For real estate, please.
So can I have a motion to go into executive session for real estate?
I make a motion and go into executive session for real estate to include the board plus the town manager.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye. So we're in executive session at 9:11.